Brud was not always in the world of Sprunki. This is his sad origin story. It all started with a magical bucket touched by the hand of a young boy, not knowing that it will change his life forever. As soon as he touched it, Brud woke up in a magical world, his lazy eye blinking as he looked around. He was lying on something soft and sticky, cotton candy. Above him, a giant spoon arched across the sky, and a massive cloud of popcorn floated lazily in the distance. The air smelled sweet, like caramel and sugar, and the ground beneath him shimmered with colors he had never seen before. Confused, Brud stood up, his gray bucket hat slightly askew. He didn't know where he was or how he had gotten there. The last thing he remembered was touching a bucket in the backyard. Now he was in a world that felt like a dream, or maybe a nightmare. He began to move. He had no feet or arms, sinking into the cotton candy ground with each step. The world around him was vast and strange. A river of syrup flowed nearby, and towering lollipops dotted the landscape. Brud felt small and out of place, but he kept moving, hoping to find someone. Anyone who could explain where he was. As he wandered, he encountered strange creatures. A talking marshmallow with a top hat tipped its brim at him, and a jelly bean-shaped creature with too many eyes rolled past without a word. A group of gummy bears, each the size of a small house, lumbered by, their translucent bodies wobbling with each step. Brud tried to speak to them, but his words came out jumbled, and they ignored him. Eventually, he stumbled upon a cave, made entirely of marshmallows. The entrance was soft and inviting, but as he stepped inside, the walls seemed to close in around him. The cave was dark, and the air felt heavy. Suddenly, vivid images flashed before his eyes. A playground where he used to sit alone. A schoolroom where the other children were stealing his marshmallows as they laughed at him. He clutched his head, overwhelmed by the memories. When the images faded, he found himself deeper in the cave. Lost and disoriented, panic set in, and he began to run, his heart pounding. The marshmallow walls seemed to stretch endlessly. But finally, he saw a faint light and managed to get out of the cave. As soon as he got out, he was surprised by the attack of gummy snakes. They were coming from everywhere. They surrounded him. He was ambushed. He remembered the times he wanted to buy gummy snake, but couldn't afford them. He was there again trying to defend himself. By now, the sky had darkened, and the world felt cold. Brud shivered as thick drops of syrup began to fall from the sky, drenching him. The snakes started melting from the heat of the syrup. He was relieved. The ground turned slippery, and he lost his footing, tumbling into a river of syrup. The current carried him away, and he struggled to keep his head above the sticky liquid. The river swept him through strange landscapes, fields of licorice, forests of candy canes, and mountains of chocolate. Along the way, Brud faced obstacles. A wall of gummy bears blocked his path. Another vivid memory came back to him. He remembered his coloring book, filled with messy scribbles of bears he was trying to draw. remembered someone shouting at him, telling him that his drawings were bad. He woke up again, finding the gummy bears in front of him. He had to close his eyes and pass through frightened. He opened his eyes to find a whirlpool of caramel nearly pulled him under, but he managed to swim free. Exhausted and scared, he wondered if he would ever find a way out. He remembered the bucket again, the one he found that night in the backyard. It was a night with a clear sky. He was looking at the stars as he noticed the bucket that day. He walked towards it. Something deep told him to touch it. He woke up again from his vivid memory. He was standing there in the magical world alone. The ground was covered in a fine layer of powdered sugar, and the air was still. A group of flying sugar cubes came by. It was mesmerizing to him. It made him remember the times he was collecting bugs and glowing flies near the lake in his town. The vivid memory was brushed off again. In the distance, he saw something that made his heart leap. A giant bucket, just like the one he wore on his head. It was enormous, towering over him like a monument. Could it be his way out? Just like how it was the beginning of his journey. Curious, he approached the bucket. As he got closer, he heard faint music, a melody that felt familiar, though he couldn't place it. The sound grew louder, enveloping him in warmth and comfort. Without hesitation, he entered the bucket. Inside, the music swelled, filling his ears and his heart. The walls of the bucket seemed to pulse with light, and Brud felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in a long time. He closed his eyes, letting the music carry him away. When he opened them again, he was no longer in the strange, sugary world. He was in a place that felt both new and familiar. The colors were brighter, the air was sweeter, and the creatures around him welcomed him with open arms. Brud didn't know how he had gotten there, but for the first time he felt like he belonged. He was forever in the world of Sprunki. Sky was not always in the world of Sprunki. This is his sad origin story. Sky's journey was a magical one, a story like no other, filled with dreams, hardships, and love. This is how it all started. In a cozy, quiet village, nestled between rolling hills and endless forests, there lived a 14-year-old boy named Sky. He was no ordinary boy. His hair was a unique frozen turquoise color, a rare gift since birth that made him special. He had a kind heart and gentle spirit. However, he had no friends, and kids laughed at him for his hair color. Sky's father was a skilled stuffed animal maker, crafting the most beautiful and lifelike toys anyone had ever seen. He was a good-hearted man who often donated their creations to the poor, spreading joy wherever they could. Sky was named by his father, who said his hair reminded him of the vast, endless sky. The boy loved watching his father work, marveling at how scraps of fabric and thread could transform into something so magical. One day, Sky's father decided to create a special stuffed animal just for him. A gift for his upcoming birthday. A friend to make life better and happier for Sky. He worked tirelessly, pouring all his love and skill into the creation. On Sky's birthday, his father presented him with the most extraordinary stuffed bear. It had the same frozen turquoise color as Sky's hair, and its eyes seemed to sparkle with life. Sky was instantly in love. The bear felt like a part of him, a friend who truly understood him. He named it Sky Jr. after himself and took it everywhere, never letting it out of his sight. Sky and Sky Jr. shared countless happy moments together. Their bond was inseparable, a friendship that brought light and laughter to every day. Every morning, Sky would wake up and greet Sky Jr. with a smile. The stuffed bear sat proudly on his bed, its turquoise fur matching Sky's hair perfectly. Sky would tell Sky Jr. about his dreams from the night before, as if the bear could understand every word. "You're my best friend," Sky would say, hugging the bear tightly before starting his day. One evening, Sky decided to take Sky Jr. on a night trip under the stars. He built a small campfire, the flames flickering softly as he gazed at the sky. But suddenly, the weather turned. Dark clouds rolled in, and a fierce storm erupted. Before Sky could react, a blinding bolt of lightning struck the ground near him. In that moment, something magical and tragic happened. Sky and Sky Jr. became one. The boy's life was somehow absorbed into the stuffed bear, trapping him. Inside, Sky's world turned upside down. One moment, he was a boy sitting by the campfire with Sky Jr., and the next, he was trapped inside the stuffed bear, his body gone, his voice silenced. At first, he didn't understand what had happened. He tried to move, to call out, but all he could feel was the soft, plush fabric of Sky Jr.'s body. Panic set in as he realized he was no longer himself. He was now part of the bear. The storm raged on, the rain pouring down in icy sheets. Sky stumbled through the forest, his new form clumsy and unfamiliar. The once cozy woods now felt vast and menacing. The trees loomed overhead, their branches clawing at the sky like skeletal hands. The wind howled, carrying with it whispers that sent shivers down Sky's spine. He felt utterly alone, even though Sky Jr. was now a part of him. Where am I? What's happening? Sky thought, his mind racing. He tried to remember the way home, but the forest seemed to stretch endlessly, in every direction. The rain soaked through his fur, making him heavy and cold. He longed for the warmth of his father's workshop, the sound of his mother's voice, the comfort of his own bed. But all he had now was the eerie silence of the forest and the distant rumble of thunder. As night fell, the forest grew darker and more terrifying. Shadows danced in the corners of his vision, and every rustle of leaves sounded like a predator stalking him. Sky's heart pounded as he imagined unseen eyes watching him from the darkness. He clutched himself tightly, trying to hold on to the last remnants of his courage. "I just want to go home," he whispered to himself, his voice trembling. But there was no one to hear him, no one to comfort him. The loneliness was crushing, a weight that pressed down on him with every step. He missed his family, his village, and the life he had known. He even missed the simple joy of holding Sky Jr. in his arms rather than being trapped inside the bear. The rain turned to snow, the cold biting into him like knives. Sky's movements grew slower, his body numb. From the freezing temperatures, he felt like giving up, like curling up under a tree, waiting for anyone to save him. But something inside him, a spark of hope, perhaps kept him moving forward. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Sky saw a faint light in the distance. It was a small, whimsical cottage, its windows glowing with warmth. The sound of music drifted through the air, a soft, haunting melody that called to him. Desperate for shelter and comfort, Sky stumbled toward the cottage, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. As he stepped inside, the music wrapped around him like a blanket, soothing his frayed nerves. For the first time since the storm, he felt a glimmer of peace. But as he stood there, listening to the melody, he felt a strange transformation begin. The world around him shifted, and he was no longer in the forest or the cottage. He had entered a new realm. Sky knew he had survived. He had faced the darkness and found a way to keep going. Sky Jr. was now a part of him, a silent companion who would always be by his side, a boy who refused to let the darkness win. He was forever in the world of Sprunki.